In this course, we're going to share with you the steps to properly onboard, introduce, and set up your new employees that you put all this great work into hiring, set them up for success. Many organizations have a flawed onboarding process, if none at all. It's very ad hoc, it's not planned, it's not organized. This course is going to give you this step by step by step. In fact, I'm going to share 20 steps that all are important, if not essential, to properly onboard your new employees, to make sure you get the maximum amount of success out of them and you retain them longer than you would have had you not gone through this initial work of bringing them in your organization the proper way. Again, this approach, tried and true, time-tested and utilized by all successful companies on the planet. Not that your company's not. I'm talking about Fortune 100 best places to work, the very best places to work. This is their process, and I'm sharing it with you. Does not matter the industry, does not matter the size of your team or your company. This process is effective and must be utilized by you and every manager in your organization. It's critical. So let's talk about the first step. Is you've got to have a checklist. There's too many elements that if it's not organized and planned out and listed for you, you've got to have that tool. And included in this course, if you go to the downloads, is a full employee onboarding checklist that you can download, customize for your organization in any way you want to. It's a very valuable tool. It gets you started. Make it your own. It is editable, but begin using it. Throughout this course, I'm going to introduce to you elements that you probably are not using today, and hopefully you'll be able to pick up on some of these practices and start using them with your team, at least from the very start of their very first day. You've got to have a clear checklist that is defined, easily followed, and prepared for in advance. These are all the best practices that companies I've worked for, that I've owned in the past. It's the same ones we use. And the companies I introduced this to as part of this training rave on how valuable this process is to improving the success and the retention of their employees. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to take you through the 20 best practices of onboarding your new employees successfully. So let's think about onboarding. What does that mean to you right now? What does that mean to you today? Well, in my opinion, our definition is it's socialization. It's introducing your new employee into their new environment, into their new culture, their new workplace, where they're going to be spending a significant amount of their time. That turns outsiders into insiders as quickly as possible. And why is that so important? Well, think about it in your own regards. The sooner this employee, your new employee, feels like that they've got a new place they belong, that they've been accepted, that they feel comfortable in, the sooner you're able to achieve that, the more likely they are to stay with you. You've heard you have one chance at a first impression. And as an employer, as a manager, this is your chance, best chance at a very positive long-term first impression. We're going to look at all the things that are incorporated in the success of onboarding. Let's think about your own onboarding experience, maybe with the current employer, maybe in past employers. I can tell you, I have had some very bad experiences. Even as an executive, I can tell you one time, it's been a number of years ago, and it was my first day on a new job. I was told to report to a certain place at a certain time and ask for a certain person. And they would take me through my initial couple of weeks of training and indoctrination. And I fly to the new city that I'm going to be working out of. I check into the hotel. I go to this location first thing in the morning. I'm 15 minutes early, as I often am. I go in, I ask for this person that I'm supposed to meet and to get me started. And the response is, who are you? Well, I'm Vaughn. It's my first time. I'm your new vice president. I don't think she comes into like 11. That's going to be like a couple hours. You want to come back? I am not exaggerating. Me being me, and I said, no, I'll go ahead and get started myself. And I did. I found a way to get myself started, but let me tell you, that was an awful way. I've got a bad taste in my mouth from the very first minutes of joining this organization. And guess what? From that initial bad impression, as I started observing the workplace, meeting the people, seeing the situations that I was observing, I was viewing them from a very negative view. I'd already started looking for problems, shortcomings, negative issues, rather than my mindset being, wow, this place is great. Because they had, unconsciously, I was doing this, but you can control that first impression and have a conscious first impression of positivity. When the things are prepared, set up, organized, and ready to go for this new employee, which is what this is all about, you're going to make a huge positive first impression. That's why it's so important. I shared my personal stories. Think about your positive and maybe not so positive experiences in the past. And when I think back of the times I had negative experiences, I certainly have some amount of items that I could easily say, as my manager, I really wish you had done this. It really can determine the future course success of this individual as they get started with you. So let's get started with some of these best practices. First thing, you got to plan for them. And this planning likely takes place around 2 weeks before the new hire starts. Don't wait to the last minute to do some of the things I'm going to share with you in here. Start planning their socialization, their training, their workplace, their logins, their whatever office supplies they're going to need. Start thinking about it, all the things you're going to need to schedule and have in place before this person starts. Don't start doing these things the day they start. That's not a positive first impression, and it's on the checklist that I've shared. If you need to take them around, and you should, and introduce them to other departments, other managers, take them to see the owner of the company, have that schedule. Let them know what day the employee is going to start, what time that employee is going to come around. We're going to talk more about that, but use the checklist. Download and use this checklist. In fact, what you may want to do as part of this course is go ahead and download it now, pause this video, download it now, print off this checklist and follow along with me, because it has a lot of value to give you the guidance to make the positive first impression. Because proper onboarding, if done right, provides this new employee perfect clarity around what's expected of them. And one of the final courses we're going to go through is how to create a high performance culture. Any engagement survey, any expert in employee culture engagement will tell you the first thing you've got to get right, the very first thing, this is foundational. Don't worry about getting anything else right until as a manager you get this right, is the employee needs to know what's expected of them in very real and specific terms. You need to be prepared with their job description, tools, and other things I want to be sharing with you throughout the checklist in this course. But great employers have a lot of clarity and specificity around what is expected of the new employees. Every employee that joins you, they just want to come and do a good job. They want to do the best job they possibly can, and it's up to you, their manager, to communicate what good looks like. So you need to prepare for that. You need to make sure you internally can describe what good looks like. And the best tool to use for that is their job description. The one reason why employees, good and bad, but generally good employees, decide to leave a boss, like I said in the previous course, they join companies, they leave bosses. And you don't want to be the boss they leave, especially now that you have hired a better quality candidate. You don't want to blow it in this step. So the reason why they go looking for a new boss, a new job, is because simply they're confused about what's expected of them. And that sounds so simple, but it's very hard to execute unless you are holding yourself accountable for standards and descriptions and follow up to make sure your entire team understands what's expected of them. There's no variances. And this new employee for sure knows. And then, we're going to talk about in future courses how to execute that. But always remember, no matter what business we're in the people business. This is your shot to really set this person up for this improved business relationship, this maximum business relationship that you have with this new hire. And secondly, every step you take through the next 20 steps is one step closer to this employee not only being successful, but staying with you for a long time. Because the number one reason for leaving their boss from their previous job, they may or may not tell you this, but they probably, if you use the behavior-based interview process properly, they're going to tell you in some shape or fashion that their boss did not give them good, clear directions on what's expected of them, much less give them feedback. And we're going to go into a lot of depth in future courses about the value of giving regular feedback to your team members. But you got to start with what's expected of them. I move on. We're going to talk about the job descriptions. You do not want any uncertainty about what their job is and what their job isn't. Making sure from a symbiotic relationship that they understand how the org chart works. What department works to what for who, and what department provides what, and let them get a clear vision of all of your organization and how it interacts. Who supports who? What's the hierarchy of the organization? What's a lead? What's a supervisor? What's a manager? What's a vice president? Who's the CEO? Who's the COO? If you have all that, what's what within this organization when it comes to people, and how the different departments interact and support each other. Work hours expectations. I can't tell you how many times I've been coaching CEOs of smaller companies, even larger companies, and the managers and executives that work there. And, they've got frustrations around a key employee or some employee not showing up for work on time. Well, I encourage you to make sure that one of your first discussions as you're onboarding your new employees and setting expectations is describe to them what on time is if they're supposed to be there at 8 o'clock, does 8 o'clock mean that I show up at 8 o'clock, I go get some coffee, I chit chat for a little bit, I go get some breakfast, and then I'm sitting at my desk 8:30, 8:45, ready to go to work? Do I punch in at 8, or am I ready to go to work at 8? Is your expectation that, and you've got to explain this to people, do not assume they know this. If your expectation is 8 o'clock, that means if you want a cup of coffee and to get breakfast and chit chat a little bit, you need to get that done before 8 o'clock, because at 8 o'clock, you need to be at your workstation. You need to be at your desk, at your workstation, and beginning work. That's what we do. And you think about the disruption somebody not understanding that can cause. The disruption is you've got the person that works next to them, who's always there 5 minutes early, is very productive, been there forever, and expects everybody else to follow the rules. And here's this new person. They show up whenever they want to. They're socializing. They're jacking around for 30 or 45 minutes before they get to work. That shows a very bad impression to those around them. That's not the culture you want to create. And in many cases, there are other people that are relying on this person to start doing their work so they can do their work. There's always that relationship between departments and individuals within most organizations. So make sure you're very clear with work hour expectations. And if they're in a position that sometimes you're in a crunch and somebody needs to stay late, they need to understand that there's going to be times that you're going to ask them to stay late. They know up front. It's not going to come as any surprise. You don't want them to ever say, well, nobody ever told me that. Nobody ever, yeah, that's not what I signed on for. Tell them up front, if that's the case. If you have some level of fluctuation or seasonality or fluxes of demand that affect the schedules of your direct reports, your employees, let them know up front. Let them know that that's going to be expected. Time to time, they have to come in early or stay late or work weekends or whatever it is. Be clear about it. Be transparent. Don't hide the fact, because you don't want any surprises. Assigning a mentor. This is one of the elements of onboarding that a lot of companies, they think about it because they haven't done it in the past and say, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Have one of your more senior people perform the task, the duty of being a mentor for new employees. One, it's a great delegation process. It takes bringing this new person on board and getting them indoctrinated and trained off of you and gives it to somebody else. Plus, think about this. If they've got a question, if they've got a problem, they're much more likely to go to a peer or another employee than come to you. That's just human nature. So you're already creating that soft spot for them within your organization, within your team, by having somebody that is reporting to you, another peer employee that's going to take them under their arms, provide their training, be their answer key, help them define where what is, how to sign on or log on or go do different things within the organization, to be their soft spot to fall when they've got a problem. This generates a huge initial level of acceptance and belonging that is one of the huge keys to engagement longevity of employees. Some companies, not all, some companies, because this does require some additional effort on the part of the mentor. One, you need to train them what mentoring is. That's pretty easy to do, but the mentors need to know what's expected of them, what the job responsibilities are, provide them with some level of training on that. And then secondly, if it's taking them away from doing work, if it's going to affect their work in some way, say they're a commissioned or a piecework individual, it's going to affect their pay because it's going to slow them down from what they do on a regular basis. Compensate them in some way. And I'm more than happy to talk to you or any employer out there and with some compensation guidelines around this, but maybe they get a mentor bonus, or while they're mentoring somebody, some additional pay to do that, compensate them. I'm not saying it's mandatory, but it's a really good thing to do. Long-term employees sharing meals with new people. This is that other thing you want to schedule before this new employee starts is, you know who your influencers, your positive influencers are within your organization. Schedule 2 or 3 lunches with these individuals, with your new employee over the first couple of weeks. Again, you're indoctrinating them in a positive way with the positive influencers within your organization. And now they're making friends with the right people. They're building relationships with the right people, because believe me, if you've got some negative Nellies on your team, they're looking for fresh meat, and they will absolutely grab a hold of this new person and start sucking them into their negativity. That virus will spread. Prevent that by setting them up with the positive people, the success stories, the movers and shakers on your team, the people you want this new employee to emulate. Set up lunches. Have them go break bread. You can pay for the lunch. Send them off to lunch to build those relationships, or dinner or happy hours, whatever you want to do. Start building those relationships, but get it scheduled so it's not ad hoc, ahead of time. Let Sally know that the new person starts on Monday, and I'd like for you to take them to lunch on Tuesday at noon. And you let the new employee know, hey, listen, here's your lunch schedule this week. Sally's going to take you on Tuesday. Eddie's going to take you on Thursday. Friday we have a happy hour together, or we have a group lunch together. Start indoctrinating folks, but have it scheduled and planned for. Now you got to get them trained. What day is the best day to get them trained? Mondays usually stink at starting training, because everybody's getting caught up. There's some backlog. They're overworked, distracted on that first day back from the weekend. Tuesdays or Wednesdays are generally better days to start training, because things have settled down. People are in their flow. But also make it clear that there is a training roadmap for your new hire. That here's where you're going to start. Here's where you're going to end. Here's how long I expect you to take to reach competency, and that they understand that they've got to learn this, and in the timeline of which they've got to learn. Then you've got to be able to provide the resources, whether it's you doing the training, the mentor doing the training, or a training department doing the training. How are they going to get trained? What is that process? And what is the day-by-day, week-by-week program to get this person up and running? They need to know product, they need to know culture, they need to know human resources, they need to know benefits, but they need to know how to do their job. Who's going to do that? And the sooner they get trained and competent, the better off you are, and the more engaged they're going to be, because nothing kills motivation and engagement of employees: boredom. Don't allow your new hires at any time in this first few weeks to have too much, if any, downtime. They've got to stay really busy, because busy minds, active minds, are successful. No downtime. Think about that. You want to make sure that you take your new hire around and introduce them to other managers, certainly other employees. And you might want to take them by the boss, and the boss might, the boss is going to need to know that this new employee is coming by, that they've set aside the time to spend 15 or 20 minutes with them, maybe longer, depending on the personality type of your boss. And that boss should be expected to talk a little bit about their own background, the history of the company, the vision of the company, some of the values of the organization. Generally, in the first day or two is when you want this happening, but the boss needs to be prepared for it. And again, it needs to be scheduled. And it's okay if you're starting, 2, 3 people, no more than 3, to do all this together. That works. That's fine. And the boss can have a group session with everybody. You can take them around as a group and introduce them to other people. That's fine. But make sure that's scheduled. Then you got to teach them about the product, the service of your organization. You've got to get them proud of what they do and what the organization does. They got to feel a part of something important, of value. They got to know what they're doing and what they're representing. So how are you going to do that? Well, there's product knowledge training. There may be videos that maybe you need to send them to different departments to spend a half hour or an hour learning what the other departments do. They may go spend an hour in accounting. They may go spend an hour in marketing. They may need to spend an hour in sales, understanding what sales and marketing and accounting does, maybe out to shipping, so that they understand how all these work. You go do a little observation, shadowing of different departments. That's an awesome approach. And as they're going through and spending time with these key employees in other departments, these key employees should be sharing not only what they do, but the values of working in the organization and what the company does well, what they're planning on growing with, what they're proud of. Maybe they need to go spend time on the manufacturing floor. If that's the case, maybe they need to spend time with the head of sales, so they can do a product presentation. Get your new person trained on understanding what you do, what your company does. And it's usually, or can be, done with just a PowerPoint presentation as an introduction. That's not going to give them all they need. They need to go have some hands-on kinesthetic learning with that. But learning what you do and what you don't do is really important. Now, those are the first 10 steps. I've dumped a lot on you in this video. In the next video, we're going to go through the next 10 steps, but I want you to pause for a minute. Go back, think about the ones that resonated with you, the first 10 that we talked about, and which ones do you want to make sure you want to start including in your onboarding process with new employees. Utilize that new employee or orientation checklist as your guide, and think about how you want to start approaching this with your future employees.